suck it up, to endure something painful, unpleasant, or otherwise dissatisfactory, to deal with or recover from some hardship or stress. Suck it up, endure something painful.
What's up? Welcome to the Suck It Up Man podcast. This is episode 5, but is our second live episode. How you doing today, Josh?
Oh, I'm doing outstanding. I have been working on one of my units to flip because I'm done being a landlord, and I'm just going to sell a couple of my houses and just turn them into Airbnbs in a different state. So I felt very manly today putting in a floor.
No way. Wow. Okay. What kind of floor?
One of those luxury vinyl plank floors. So 7 inches wide, came out absolutely perfect. I was sweating so much because up here in September, it's normally like 50 degrees, sometimes 60. And today it was 86 degrees. So I was just sweating profusely, but feeling very manly on myself. And when I got done with it, I looked around and I was like, man, I can't wait to put up the trim because it's going to look so nice when it's done. And I just felt very proud of myself doing that. Made me feel very much like a man. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah. I worked for a flooring retailer. In my last couple years there, that luxury vinyl plank was the #1 seller just because it's really the most indestructible. It's waterproof, not super difficult to install. So that's pretty cool. Speaking of manly, look at that shirt, man. I love it. What do we got? A little flamingo action going on?
Yeah, there's a story behind this shirt. My mom buys my dad shirts all the time. And this is actually really nice material. And my dad didn't like it because it doesn't have a front pocket. And you have to wear a collared shirt when you go golfing. So I went golfing with my dad yesterday, and this is the best one to swing a club in because it's very loose fitting. So it's very comfortable. So yeah, there's a little story. Plus, it's short sleeved. And I figured I would show off the tattoo that I talked about that I was getting.
Boom.
It's a little scabby, if you will. But it was funny because my wife and I were walking through the grocery store and she was behind me and she just kept giggling. She was like, "Oh my God, that's so funny. Her hair's on fire." So it was pretty funny to see that because when you walk behind me, you see it. And again, it's symbolic in the fact that it's on the back of my arm, like it's something that's behind me. So yeah, I figured
have you had any comments on it?
Oh,
has anyone commented?
Yeah, I've had a couple people who are like, I absolutely love your tattoos. I had a couple people talk about my Fago Rock and Rye tattoo here, which represents my brother. And then I've got my my peacock and an eagle, which represents my mom and dad, and then the unicorn on the top, which represents my wife. And then of course I've got the Chicago bean tattoo on my wrist, which is what most of my viewers from our channel, your channel and my channel have seen. That represents my kid's name because her nickname is Bean. So yeah, I still got my forearm to go for my sleeve. My wife did ask me, she goes, "What are you going to get around your elbow?" And I'm like, nothing, because I heard that's like one of the most painful spots to get a tattoo on is your elbow.
Yeah, I can imagine that's a super, super sensitive area. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't personally have any tattoos, but if I don't think I will, but if I ever do, I guess I'll have to pick your brain a little bit, and because it seems like most people that get tattoos, similar to you, they have some kind of meaning behind them. They're paying homage to some kind of family.
100,000 likes or subscribes challenge tattoo, and then you get like 100K tattooed like somewhere on your body.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Oh, sorry to cut you off, but
no, you're good.
You were saying you don't, because a lot of tattoos have symbolism. Go on. Sorry to cut you off. You're on.
No, you're good.
There.
I'll have to talk to the wife about that. I don't know how she would feel if I got a tattoo, but hey, if it helps us get some more subscribers quicker, we'll see.
But yeah, tattoos do have meaning. It's important, in some, at least for me, they have meanings. For some people, they don't. And I've got some tattoos on my legs too. But and I've got a couple on my back as well. I've got a portrait of my brother who passed away, and then I have my daughter's footsteps on my back with her birth date. So yeah, it's
and I know for some people it's also like a style too. Like my a friend of ours, they used to be our neighbor, but she was kind of a typical Gothic girl, and she had a lot of Gothic like tattoos, and it went really well with her style. For Halloween, it would help her costume having these tattoos pretty much all over her body. So yeah, I mean, to each their own. I mean, I like I said, I don't have tattoos, but it's pretty cool in my opinion.
Yeah, and I would say all of my tattoos have importance and have value and have meaning in each different way. Like I wouldn't say one tattoo's favored over another. I have this one on my right wrist. Oops, it's a semicolon.
Yeah.
And it's a semicolon, sorry, just to show it to the viewers. And a semicolon is a suicide awareness tattoo. So again, as you guys know, September is Suicide Awareness Month, 988. Not to put a damper on things, but that is probably one of my most meaningful tattoos that my kid actually designed, and both my wife and my kid have it. We all have it on our right wrist. So it reminds us that with a semicolon, the story continues to go on. So
yeah, for sure. And speaking of suicide, obviously last week, as we mentioned, for those of you who are tuning in, we had a laundry list of topics already picked out, but obviously the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk happened, and it was just too big a news essentially for us not to talk about. And really since then, it's been about a week now, there's been a number of people who have given their opinion on the situation and have been fired as a result. And I know you had a pretty strong opinion on that, people getting fired for these. Yeah.
Absolutely. And here's one of the things that I will say, that for those people who posted the celebration of Charlie Kirk, even though I think that you might be foolish in doing that, and even though I completely disagree with you doing that, I also am a firm believer in freedom of speech. And I think my ex-father-in-law used to say it best, is people have the freedom to say the dumbest shit possible and to be as idiotic in public as they want to be. And I will always fight for that freedom, regardless. If somebody wants to say something that's I disagree with, and it's important that people understand freedom of speech needs to offend people in some instances in order to remain free. Like, it's not something that you have to agree with. Like, I don't agree with that at all. I think it's terrible, but I also think that if you do that on social media and you lose your job, your employer has a right to fire you just as right, So
Yep.
you kind of get what you get there. And it's one of those things where if you do have an employer and you're not sure if you can get fired for posting something political, then you should probably just err on the side of not doing it. And not only that, but posting the celebration of somebody's death is pretty fucked up, in my opinion. Like, it's just immoral. There's celebration of death in any sense of the word, unless they already have like a terminal illness, it just doesn't make any logical or rational sense. And that's what I'm going to say about that at that point.
Yeah, and it's something I guess I have to get used to. When we were doing the poker vlog, and we're still doing that as well. But the worst thing that somebody would comment on a video would be like, "Oh, you suck at poker. Like, what are you doing? Like, get a real job, this, that, and the other." But obviously, as
you're going to go broke soon, blah, blah, blah. Right?
Yeah. But as we're talking about more sensitive issues, like politics and suicide and all these other things, I mentioned to you last night that someone on our TikTok short basically took a still shot of Charlie Kirk, and it was pretty much him slunched over and blood gushing out, and the guy basically said, "Good riddance, like, you got what you asked for." And another person commented that this is absolutely disgusting, and I told you that I didn't like it, but I guess as you talk about these more sensitive topics, you are going to have like a wider range of opinions. So I don't like it, and I don't think you should be, applauding someone getting shot, a 31-year-old guy who has a couple young kids, newly married, whether you believe in his political views or not. But it is, I guess, your opinion if that's what you feel.
Well, and going back to last episode, you said, I don't want to go deep. And I think after seeing some of the comments and posts about the Charlie Kirk incident, I think, the viewers want us to go a little bit deeper. So we're just going to dig a little deeper, baby. And that's okay. Sometimes you got to do that. You watch all those, I don't know if you watch those Disney movies, but, all those funny songs, they have really good, genuine messages to people, like in The Princess and the Frog. You got to dig a little deeper, baby. And sometimes you got to do that. And I think in our society right now, we really have to dig a little deeper and say, all right, guys, let's stop the fucking killing talk. Let's stop with political assassinations are okay. Like, let's stop with this hateful rhetoric, and everybody just calm the fuck down and smoke a doob and chill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. That's, we just need to have a little bit more faith in each other and just believe that I understand your beliefs are different than mine, but you want the general good just as much as I do.
Yeah. I saw something online. It was from Bernie Sanders, and it was actually probably one of the best clips I saw. Bernie Sanders was saying that's why, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said that's why the United States of America is the best country, because this is a country where you can openly talk about your opinion and you're not going to have, I guess, repercussions for it. I mean, granted, some of these people did lose their jobs, but as you were saying, I mean, you have to be cognizant of the fact that every one of these companies that people work for, it's a business, right? I mean, the guy, I think his name was Matthew Dowd. I didn't know who he was, but I guess he was an analyst on MSNBC, which is obviously a left-leaning, program. And he made a comment.
He said was just completely ignorant. Maybe one of his fans shot off a firearm and celebrate. Like, what the fuck? That's one of those. You just want to look at him and say, "Are you fucking stupid?" Like, what? Sorry, go on. Sorry.
No, No, I agree. I mean, I know you have very strong opinions on politics and stuff, but yeah, I mean, you have to be aware of what you're saying, right? Herm Edwards, he's a former NFL player, former coach. He's most famous for
you play to win the game.
You play to win the game. But one of his other famous quotes is, "Don't hit send. Be careful. Don't hit send," right? Because he realizes, and he had he was a player, and he had players that he realizes, like, the bigger platform you have and the more famous you are, the more you can have repercussions against you for saying something that, maybe you didn't even think was a big deal, but you make one comment and boom, your career could be over. I mean, there's countless examples from history. I mean, you can look at Paula Deen was one that I thought of. Do you remember her? Paula Deen, she was like a Food Network star, like kind of an older lady. She was really famous for really famous for like Southern cooking, but there was something that came out about a racist comment. There's been a lot of athletes that have done the same thing. So you have to realize, like, the more famous you are,
Brett Favre, up here in the Upper Peninsula, we all celebrate Brett Favre. Send us photo. Don't hit send. Like,
don't hit send. Be careful. Yeah.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Always be careful what you say. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Important. But
all right. Well, I think we've touched on that enough. So I'm really excited to bring in one of my buddies, Phil. He was actually one of my first poker students back like 3-4 years ago. We had a poker group that he was a part of, and I think we'll get Bryson to let Phil into the chat here.
What was the name of the poker group? And for all of those who are listening, two things. Bryson is like our IT support social media guy. We haven't mentioned that yet. And then if you are listening to this on Spotify, we are live Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time while we're waiting for Bryson to load up Phil.
There we go. Welcome in, Phil.
Hey, thanks, man.
Now, what was the name of the poker group you guys were in?
PLO Posse.
PLO Posse. Yeah. So when I was starting out for probably the first year of the vlog, the biggest comment that I got from people was, "Hey, I'm a Hold'em player. I want to get into PLO. Where do I learn?" And I didn't really read too much content. There really wasn't that much content out there anyway. But I started, the PLO Posse as a group. It was a Discord group where people could post their hand histories, different things that they're going through, and yeah, it was really cool. I mean, I remember the first year at the series. I think it was the first time I met Phil. Correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, but we had about 6 or 7 of us who played the $600 PLO tournament. And Josh, or anyone who's watching knows, when you're in that Paris ballroom, I mean, there's thousands upon thousands of people, and it's not the easiest to pick somebody out. But Phil, in homage to his father, he was wearing this bright yellow hoodie that had 300-pound canary, which was your father's truck. Was it his rig's name?
Yeah, his CB handle's name when he drove a truck. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so it was super easy. It actually reminded me, Josh, of this past year. Josh was wearing his tie-dye hat that he's wearing now, and I can look across the whole room and like, yep, he's over there, table 127. Same kind of thing. So I think that was the first time that Phil and I met, and really good time that series.
Oh yeah, I had a blast because hey, I cashed, so I was happy.
Hey, anytime you cash, that's a win.
Yep, definitely. Took me 3 bullets, but we won't go there.
So I know, Phil, that we wanted to talk, or you wanted to talk really about your journey, kind of growing up, maybe starting when you were like 18, and kind of just some different struggles and some different things that you went through. As Josh and I feel that the audience can definitely learn a lot from someone like yourself, who's kind of had a lot of experience and kind of been through it, and hearing about what you've been through.
Yeah.
And then if you could just put your microphone a little bit closer, Phil, so we could hear you a little bit louder.
Is that
there
a
you
little
go.
bit better?
There we go.
I think
so.
Talk
nice and sultry for everybody? Okay. Here we go.
Perfect.
Think for the dulcet tones of Phil White.
This is great for story time. I love story time.
Everybody's going to pull up their blankie. All right. So yeah, this came off a short that I think you guys had put up originally. And I guess it was something that Wayne had seen and didn't necessarily understand or, know a ton about my background, right? Because we'd known each other for, 3 or 4 or 5 years, but never had gone back. And I myself, I have a son, who's early 20s now. He's trying to figure stuff out. And I, as a father, try to relate, okay, this is the crap that I went through, right? And just try to learn from it if you can without experiencing it yourself. I know a lot of people, that's how they learn. They have to make the mistakes themselves to kind of do it, but do it in a way that is not permanent. That's the one thing I always told my son is, yeah, you can make mistakes. Don't worry. Just don't make a permanent mistake.
I used to have a high school physics teacher who, not to cut you off, but happens to be my next door neighbor now. His name's Mr. Smith, but he always used to say, there's nothing you can do in a single day except commit a felony or get married that's going to change the rest of your life. So he always said, anything you do in a single day really doesn't have that big of an impact unless you commit a felony or get married. And so it just made me think of that while you were saying that. So
no,
go
completely.
on. Sorry.
I get it, Josh. There's one other thing I can think of, but I know I've got some, you've got some when it comes to kids. So, and that thing that can always change your life, but use protection, children. All right. So, so I'll just go back and I'll give it my, it probably all started back even when my parents split up, right? So my parents went through a divorce as well when I was that nice impressionable age of 12, 13 years old. And originally I was living with my mother, but always had desired to go live with my father. Probably one of the main reasons was he let me get away with a lot more stuff than than my mother did. Completely
Makes sense
different.
being self-interested,
Yeah, completely. Well, especially as a kid, right?
Of course.
Myself. And so I ended up going to go live with him, and we had a really good life. He had a really good job and all of those things. But eventually he ended up losing his job. So that was started to put things, for us in a rough way. Ended up, I graduated high school early because I was bored to tears. And so I wanted to graduate after junior year, ended up graduating another semester because I needed a half a credit and something or another. But I ended up going directly into work at a gas station across the street because I had no car. We were, living unemployment check to unemployment check at that time. And that led me to developing friendships that were not the people I should really be hanging out with. Let me just put it that way. And eventually led to homelessness and addiction and all of those kinds of things for a number of years. The funny thing was I always had a job. I don't know how the heck I did that at that age, but I was always making minimum wage somewhere. And that really put, it put me behind the 8 ball a lot because all of my peers were going off to college, all that kind of stuff. Probably where I could have been or should have been if things were different.
Now, for reference, what year-ish was this?
1984, 1985.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
I'm 59. So I am Gen X. I'm the beginning of Gen X. And then I've got a Gen Z son, right? And so this was before social media, before all of that, right? And I think that was just to follow that. It was when it came to social things during that time and with these friends that weren't the best friends and all of that, it's completely different than it is today, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody is interacting in a way where you don't even see their face, and you may not even know who they are eventually. And I think you guys, being content creators, deal with that a heck of a lot more than just myself. But back then, if you said something, you had to own up to it, because you said something about Joe. Joe eventually is going to come up in your face, and you're going to have to deal with it, like right now. And with that kind of group, sometimes it just led to black eyes and bloody lips and all of that kind of stuff too. So today, it's
you're
different.
saying with social media, it has less of a direct negative impact on the person who says something ignorant.
Yes, because it's not a physical attack, right?
Sure.
And they can hide behind their keyboard. Now, as we've learned, you can do that on social media nowadays, like with Charlie Kirk, and end up getting yourself fired, right? So it's definitely a different dynamic between myself growing up and what everybody's having to deal with now.
Oh, and imagine being a vlogger. There's a ton of keyboard warriors out there.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
And it's just like I never imagined how many experts in pot limit Omaha there was until I started vlogging PLO Professor, and all of a sudden 10,000 people who knew everything about pot limit Omaha there was to know finally came out of the woodworks. Like they were just waiting for me to start a vlog. Okay. And I even had like one guy recently go through like every hand, and he's like, this was wrong, this was this, and I'm like, everything's situational, but okay.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, go on.
No, it's just like all the starting quarterbacks that are watching Monday Night Football. It's
exactly
the same thing. They know exactly what Josh is supposed to be doing, right? So
absolutely.
So sometimes I chase rabbits. So if you need to pull me back, so I was telling you basically what I was saying was life sucked for me for a long time. For a number of years. And
now, when you say you were homeless, were you living on other people's couches? Were you homeless, like living in a cardboard box?
Yeah. So luckily, I never had to live on the street, but I did live in a car that, was a 1974 Mustang II. And then I upgraded to a 1976 Celica GT that was more rust than anything else.
But bigger than that Ford, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And a bit of couch surfing. And luckily, met a gentleman that let me stay in his little camper that sat in his driveway for a year. And so, some people say, well, that isn't really homeless. Yeah, I'm not in a tent. That is very true. But I was also always employed.
You're in a camper. That's not that far from a tent.
Yeah, very true. Very true. And luckily, my addiction issues, I was able to get through very quickly. It was probably, a year. And so some folks may say that's not addiction, but when I'm just trying to figure out how to always get the next bit, I would call that an addiction. And I just got tired of not being able to think clearly. Is really kind of what drove that. And then through very slow and methodical application of myself in various little jobs, was able to pull myself out of that. Now that didn't mean financially I was anything great. We were renting a little house. My father and I were renting a little house for $400 a month, and he rekindled an old flame and left. And so I'm making $135 a week, trying to afford a $400 a month place. And I had to make a big decision. And at that point, I looked at looked at my options, thought about it, decided to swallow my ego at the age of 21, called up my mom and said, can I come home? And so I did. And
did you not get along with your mom? Or was it just you don't? No, I mean, yeah, I guess 21, you don't really want to move back in with your mom, especially in the 80s.
Yeah, yeah, but it was the best option because I was going to be homeless again very shortly. Luckily, the landlord was letting me pay $100 a week for as long as I could until I ran out of money. And so, yeah, I was eating and trying to drive my car on $35 a week,
right?
Which was kind of tough. So I did that. I went back. She provided a nice, loving place for me, but I had to live by her rules. I'm not going to get into, super details on that, but I had to live by her rules, which were not the rules that I really, wanted to live by. I was an independent person by then, right? But I was able to continue to work, get a little better job, make $5 an hour instead of $3.35 an hour, save up enough money to start college. And so that, that was a big deal. It also got me out of my mother's house, day in and day out, and being able to go to college. So, hey, everything's going great. Everything's good. Then I rekindled my old high school girlfriend romance. And things went off the rails again. And just it's to make it, a very long story a little bit shorter, something that'll fit in
a little bit Reader's Digest version, but that's okay.
Right. Is I thought we were going to end up getting married. Right. I thought we had rekindled it. We had, we started dating each other for a year or so, and she didn't, just to put it blankly. And so I trashed school trying to get her back. So cutting
Oh,
classes,
that's not a
just
yeah.
and
It's funny that you're speaking of this struggle, like living in a car, being homeless, and going through this. There's somebody that I know that I'm close to who is going through a similar struggle, and it's one of those things where I've just reached out to him, and he said, it's hard to reach out to people because I don't want to keep asking for help. I just want to be able to help myself. And I tried expressing to this individual that one of the most important things is being able to provide for yourself and help yourself first. Because if you can't provide for yourself, if you can't help yourself first, you can't fucking help anybody else. Especially if you're like a guy like myself who's very big into positive and good karma and doing the most amount of good. You have to make sure that you yourself are taken care of first before you can make sure other people are taken care of, especially if it's any loved ones, family members, or anything like that.
yeah, I mean, very interesting. I mean, that brings up a really interesting point, Josh, in that when I was younger and before I kind of got into my troubles, but even during my troubles, I always was looking for a way to help another person. I was the guy, my nickname back then was Doc, because somebody would come to me and I would try to help fix their problem. I would, reassure them, pump them full of, no, you're good. This is what's good about you. It's, you know, try this, look for this. But then I wouldn't do it for myself. Right.
Well, it's funny. Some of the most broke people and loving, some of the most loving people and broke people I've met are the same. They're
Yeah.
loving and they're broke. And it took me a long time to have that financial mindset switch. And it probably going through a divorce helped. But it was one of the things, like one of the first things I had a discussion with my current wife is I told her, I said, you have to understand that I'm never going to be in debt again. I'm going to be taken care of financially, whether it's me and you or just me, whatever. But she understood that from the word go. And yeah, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. So yeah, especially financially.
Yeah. So uh, on this topic and part of it, so I ended up, basically failing out of school the first time. Um, and I came to kind of another decision point, right? This is about 3 years after my first one. Okay, mom, can I come back? What the heck am I going to do? Um, she and I were in the same town. We were always in each other's circles. We had the same friends. And so I made the decision, which I had always at one point thought, if I ever run out of options, I'm going to join the military. So that's what I did. And because of my, experimentation in my early teens, I wanted to go Air Force. I thought, hey, that'd be cool, work on airplanes, and do all that kind of stuff. And this was, about 1990 by now or so. And they said, oh, you've tried drugs? They were reducing the military size. Yeah, we can't do that. But go try the Navy because they're not downsizing. And so I went in and I talked to the chief. The chief's like, you could walk in here with a joint, put it out in my ashtray. I'd wait 30 days and put you in. And so, that was where I had to get a waiver and all those kinds of things. And with my education, and all of that, I went and I took the ASVAB, did very well. They said, hey, do you want to be a nuke? And I'm like, what the heck is a nuke? It's like, oh, you get to work on nuclear power plants. Primarily on submarines is what they were talking about. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll take whatever test you want. Did well enough. They're like, oh, can we make you a nuke? Can we make you a nuke? And they're like, we'll give you a $3,500 signing bonus. And I'm like, sold. Because that I was in debt for, I had promised these guys I was going to rent the place for the full year and all of that. And so financially that helped me. But the main part, and the military's not for everybody. And I talked to my son about, military and everything too. It was the right choice for me because it allowed me to focus on me. And it made me develop some integrity and accountability that probably really wasn't there. And so, especially for the next 3 or 4 years, that became important. I became extremely comfortable with myself. I knew what I liked. I knew what I wanted to do. And I think it just showed. It attracted the right people, right? The people that I was hanging out with, I think they saw that in me.
How old
Instead
were
of,
you at this time?
I joined at the age of 24.
Okay.
And this is about 27, 28.
All right, 3 or 4 years. And how long were you contracted to serve?
6 years.
Okay.
6 years. So I got out when I was 30. But you know, kind of my point, and what I was talking to, I think, Wayne about a little bit was I became very comfortable with myself and very confident in myself. And I just put that out there. And the people that it attracted were good people. They really were. I mean, it's how I met my wife, right? Was because I was just being myself. I was very confident in myself. And I think that was, you know, I didn't care if she liked me or not, you know, and
that reminds me of our first, or no, it was our second guest. We had Wilson on, and he recently got engaged, and he was talking about being your genuine self attracts the true person that you're supposed to be with. And that gives me a moment of reflection to when I was at Imagine Dragons concert in Aspen a couple weeks ago. And he kept singing, "I'm never changing who I am." Like seeing that in the rain and everything, and him just like screaming it and belting it. It's like be your genuine self. It really means a lot to be your genuine self because it attracts, I think, the most good that's out there. I don't know, Wayne, your thoughts on that?
No, yeah, and I was going to say our first guest was a Yod. He's very similar age to your son, probably like 21, 22, and he was saying that he thinks that the Gen Z generation is very soft, and he thinks a part of the reason for that is, well, one, they're lazy, but they're not really willing to go out and try different things, which it sounds like you did in your 20s. And do you agree that the younger generation, your son's generation, do you think that they're soft?
It is very situational in general, and what I see on social media, yes. Individuals, no. I see the right thing. It's just I don't think they've been challenged the way that the older generations have been. And they need.
You think they've just been giving a pass too many times, and here's a trophy just for showing up?
A little bit, yeah. I think that's part of it, but they haven't challenged themselves. I haven't been forced to challenge themselves. And I blame my own generation for that as a parent to a degree. And, you know, something I lament with my son, and I'm chasing a rabbit, but I apologize, is he would ask a question. When I would ask a question as my kid, my father would do like the Socratic method. Well, what do you think? Well, what do you think is the answer? Why is the sky blue? Well, why do you think it's blue?
Sure, it would force you to think. Yeah.
Right. With my son, I'd tell him the answer. You know, and I'd be like, okay, I'm giving you this information. So now that you will be smarter because you have this information. But he never had to develop and get it himself. I eventually kind of realized that and started to be a little more Socratic in that method for him. And I think that really helped him. He also, I mean,
yeah, I could see that. I mean, I've got a 21-year-old myself, and even though my communication with my kid is limited, not due to my own reasoning, but due to theirs, to their wants. But yeah, I always challenged my kid to think on their own instead of giving the answer. I always did that, and I would tell people all the time that she was probably the most intelligent person that I've ever met. And even to this day, she's definitely one of the most intelligent people that I've met, even though she's my own kid, just because her brain, she thinks differently outside the box. And maybe that's because I questioned her so much while growing up, you know?
Yeah.
But
I'm right there with you, Josh. I mean, I am. I get it. For me, I think when I changed, and then some of the things that went on in his own life, he began to question. And
He
today's
began to what?
generation,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that
he
part.
question. So
Oh
he
yeah,
wouldn't just take, here's the answer. Well, why? Right? He would start to push back and start to ask those questions on, well, why is it that way? Well, I disagree, and this is why I disagree. And that was all great, except with his own peers, because his own peers didn't like that, and so he himself had some social issues with the general populace and the general peers because he was questioning, because he wouldn't just fall in line with everybody else as social media does, and social media seems to promote. And I mean, he himself, talking to him, I don't know, a year or two ago, he's like, yeah, I stopped doom scrolling. It was just a complete waste of my mental energy.
you
I
say
I
doom
just
scrolling. You mean like when people are just going nonstop through it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, getting stuck on Instagram or whatever the next one is. I remember when he was, in high school, Snapchat. Oh, he had to keep his streaks up, and he had to do all this, and how much
Bro,
time that took.
like even when I was out with my mom and even my wife and just seeing like them go through, like I didn't my mom who's 79 years old was like focused on, like even when we were driving around going through the shorts, and I'm like, what are you doing? You used to just put the phone down and look out the goddamn window and be like, it's so pretty. Because right now the fall colors are changing, which
Mm.
Wayne's been up here in September to walk the Mackinac Bridge. That was what, a year ago. But right now they're starting to change. And even though I golfed for shit yesterday, I said to my dad, I said, it's so damn beautiful out here, especially when all the leaves start to change. But
Yeah.
sorry, I jumped the gun a little bit there.
No, but that's it. In trying to promote my son to get out, right, and to get out and experience life. And so when he went to university, he did not want to go to university in Seattle, right? That was, UW is like right over there. I mean, literally half a mile.
Sure.
And he's like, no, I want to go. He wanted to go to LA. He wanted to
UW
experience the
is
big city.
UW University of Wisconsin
Washington.
or Washington. Okay.
Yeah. And so he wanted to go to LA. And so he went to a university there, found his independence, found his own voice, found the people that he could hang with. He still had peer issues because he just wouldn't take, he doesn't put up with drama. He's just tired of it, right? And so I'm proud of him for that. Do I agree with everything he believes? Oh, hell no. We're still two different generations, but I respect if he's come up with something, I respect that he's thought about it. And I also believe that as he gets older, things won't be as black and white, right? We all learned, definitely things turned grayer as we got older. And it's
Well,
not
and I
just,
think that's the one thing, like the differences between 20 something year olds right now, 40-year olds, like how do we go about bridging the divide or the gap for, and move forward? That's like one of those things that I struggle with, because you hear sometimes some of the young people who are so used to cancel culture, they're like, no, we just stop listening to everything you have to say, even if it's mildly reasonable. And you're like, really? Like,
well,
and I also go one further down and I start worrying about maybe AI is going to jump in and be like, hey, this is what we've deemed as moral. And since I'm AI, now that's boom, the rule of law. But that's probably like 30 years from now.
well, no, not 30. It's going to hit a heck of a lot faster. So,
Well, AI will, but I mean, when we start allowing AI to be our judges of morality and ethics, I think that's probably 25 to 30 years from now. Of course,
yeah,
I'm just guessing from the hip.
I'll probably be dead by then. So, okay.
Right? You're like, I don't really give a shit about that.
Okay,
You're
I'm
like,
done.
that sounds like a you and Wayne problem might have. I mean, if we're lucky enough, if we get that old, we'll have to worry about that, right?
Hey, we just designed the first chips and the 385 stuff, and then you guys took it from there. I mean, that was what my
Right.
generation. We got you started, and then we just handed it off. Here you go. And then now there's like AI. It's like, oh crap. Okay. But trying to do a big circle here, because I know podcasts and these kinds of things, we're always running around on different topics.
Sure.
my confidence in all of that was an amazing thing because it kind of allowed me to get through the trauma that I had with the girlfriend, right? And to be able to heal. And that's really a major thing, and that I've learned as I get older and older, is having the trauma, but then being able to heal. I don't know how the young people
So what
necessarily
kind of
heal right now. So
what kind of steps did you take to heal? And for anybody who's listening or watching, what kind of steps would you recommend to people that are listening or watching? Like
yeah,
what would you say to somebody?
yeah, find somebody to talk to. That's important. Looks like we lost Wayne, but find somebody that really you can trust, right? And that takes time. That isn't, there's the therapist that you can pay and you can trust them. But then there's also, your best friend, or maybe not your
Well,
somebody
and
that, yeah. Go ahead.
here's one of the things I was going to say that I heard recently on Joe Rogan's podcast of talking about mushrooms and depression, especially with veterans and whatnot. We see you now, Wayne.
Okay, cool.
And how also, particularly with addiction, that people who were allowing these people to take mushrooms for the first time had a reduction in their addiction by 86%, which normally a addiction clinic even has about a 10% success rate. And I think it was just like the governor Abbott or something from Texas just approved some kind of a drug that's basically a little bit mushroom based, but having that confidence, and then something like that, dealing with addiction and things of that nature. I don't know. It's go on with your son. Sorry, I was just mentioning a couple things in
No,
there.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about that, but the main point is acknowledge that you've gone through something, right? Or you're going through something, and find an outlet. Sometimes it's golf. Sometimes it's reading, right? I mean, I became a voracious reader. And of course, when you're in the Navy and you're out to sea, sometimes there's not much else to do except for work and read.
Yes,
But
yeah.
but and then try to connect with people. Doesn't have to be very many. I mean, that's one thing I think, in going back to the social media world, is you see so many people and you reach out and you fan out to so many people. But I have a ton of acquaintances. I got 2 good friends, and that's it. But that's all it takes. You don't have to have this huge social circle. And I think social media kind of promotes that. Back in the day, you got 2 good friends. What else do you need, right? Okay, a fourth.
Oh
so
yeah,
you've got a fourth.
Might have like
So
you might have like a campfire and you'd have 4 to 6 people over, and that would be it. Like,
yeah,
and we do that up here in the UP, man. We've got deer camp up here. So that's one thing that I always have a saying: if I could hunt, fish, or if I could hunt, fish, or play poker, I'd rather like fish, fish, and fish. I just love fishing, right? Or hunt, fish, or golf. I'd rather fish, fish, and fish. But I will tell you one thing that I really enjoy when it comes to hunting season, especially up here, is everybody gets together. And, sometimes it's like 4 guys in a camp or 6 guys in a camp. But even if I'm not at camp because I live up here, other people will go to camp and then I'll get invited. And even if I don't hunt, I can just go to camp and hang out with the guys for a few minutes and then just have a few beers, have a doobie, talk about some stuff, maybe play some pool, take some crazy photos and just have that bonding experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that is missing a lot in today's society in particular, especially at bigger cities and stuff like that. It's like, let's just do it online.
Yeah. The biggest thing I've learned, and this goes into the rest of my life, from youth into the rest of my life into business, communication is what it's all about. Being able to communicate to another person. And that has so much value. And in business, it's true, having integrity and and honesty to just talk to somebody. Hey, if something comes up and you screwed up, get out there and talk to them. Don't try and hide behind anything. Don't try and hide behind a series of emails or all of that.
Oh, I think I even told the story about my kid when I told her to order pizza, and she was super anxious about ordering pizza. She was like, I don't know if I want to order pizza. Can't we just text them? And I'm like, what the hell? Just have some confidence, get over it. You know, you're going to have to deal with some things every once in a while. Suck it up, man. I mean, of course, I was saying that to my daughter, but
that's all right. So one of the things that my son does is he likes to perform, right? So musical instruments, dance, that kind of thing. And from an early age, he would get up on stage and he would do all sorts of stuff, and he had no problems. But sometimes you get him one-on-one. Hey, there's so-and-so, go talk to him. You know, and there would be that huge reluctance. And I'm like, you were just up there dancing in a thong,
performing in front of 50 people, right?
Yeah.
Well,
50
but
people.
that's his comfort zone, though, because at 50 people, you don't expect somebody to have a one-on-one conversation with you, where having a one-on-one conversation is going to build up a lot of anxiety, and then people are going to be like, I'm freaking out because what if I say the wrong thing?
Yeah, and it's usually somebody he admires, right? And I think that's what the key is. If it's just somebody, he is great. He's always been great with older people because he's an only child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he was always around, you know, my peers, my wife's peers, his grandparents' peers. And so he can have an intelligent conversation at the age of 5. I mean, that's just the kind of kid he is, because he wasn't used to talking to his peers. But
well, and my advice to him would be kind of what we talked about earlier in the podcast, which is there's nothing you're going to do in a single day that's going to change the rest of your life except commit a felony or get married. That's so funny that we talked about that before we had you on, and now we've had you on, and that's kind of the theme is, hey, guess what, kids? Unless you're getting married or committing a felony, there's nothing that you're going to do in a single day that's going to fuck up the rest of your life. Even the people who got fired for posting stupid shit on social media, it's a job. You'll get another one. Like,
you'll get another. Yeah, that's one thing I always say, because somebody's upset that you said something, somebody else actually agrees with you.
Yeah,
and at the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is what it is. It's yeah, at the end of the day. So it's
we
like,
all do stupid stuff. I mean, I came on well, no, wait, I'm not going to say that. But but we all do stupid stuff. And so far we've all recovered. And you know, other topics you talk about, by suicide and all of that, and your semicolon, which I love, is you're
my daughter designed that. It's a kitty cat. People say, is it a spider? No, it's a kitty cat. It just needs to be touched up. Kitty cat with the semicolon or like a little tail on it. But it's funny because, like, I know damn good and well, my daughter, when she got that tattoo, I think was 16, maybe she was 15. And in the state that I got the tattoo in, you only needed one parent to sign off on. So this is after my divorce with my first wife. And I knew it just pissed her off, my ex-wife, so much, because every time she would see it on my kid, I know she would know that I would have it as well as my current wife would have it as well. And I don't know, not that like I take joy in somebody else's pain, but it's one of those things where I take a lot of joy in it, because when I look down at it, I know my daughter has it and she looks down at it just as much as I do. And even though I might not communicate with her, it's still a sense of long distance bonding from across the country. So
yeah, I mean, I've had other friends that tell me that, you know, when it comes to relationships, family or some of the, you know, if it's not the strongest, it's number 2, right, behind your marriage. And
well, but I think marriage is family as well. Like, I always tell people the difference between friends and family is friends you'll help move. Family, I'll help move a body. I mean, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, no, I
you have though.
Yeah. You're in the UP. Nobody will find it.
Yeah.
So,
I've moved plenty of deer bodies on deer camp when you're hunting and stuff like that. That's normal.
That's
But
normal. I grew up in Missouri with my
now,
mother, and so we were hunting culture, so I get it.
Phil, do you have any tattoos yourself at all, or
No,
does your kid
no,
have any tattoos?
no. Being that he's a performer um, with dance, he doesn't want to put tattoos, which somebody
Sure.
may say, "Oh, we don't want that," some director or something like that.
But it is
Um,
a lot more accepted now, and it's
it
even more
is.
accepted. Like what I found with tattoos is especially people around my age. I'm
Mhm.
40, 45, so I'm at the very end of Gen X, Gen Y, the 6 year mini generation. But a lot of people, like my wife, for example, has an entire sleeve, and like this
Yeah.
year, I'm working on my entire sleeve, and
Yeah.
I'm about halfway through. I got some more work I got to do, and I'm going to leave some space for future
Yeah.
work, of course. But
Yeah. Yeah. I
it's
mean
a
that
lot more of an acceptable thing now.
it is completely. I mean, it used to be, oh my, were you in the military, right? I mean, that was the first thing because a lot of folks would do that, or are you a biker, right? I mean, those are the kind of the two worlds. Now it's like, okay, it doesn't matter,
Oh yeah,
to
business people, doctors, lawyers,
yeah.
everybody except for Wayne and yourself has
Yeah, yeah, we are the
tattoos.
only two men over 40 that don't have any tattoos. No, but yeah, I'm trying to
So your big
bring
message to
yeah,
your son would be have some confidence,
have
get out
yeah,
there. And even if you fuck up, like here's something that I would like to say that when I was in sales or sales management, I used to tell my salespeople all the time, your job as a salesperson is to go out there, sell the customer, and then sometimes you're going to fuck up.
yeah,
My job as the manager is to correct the fuck up. You make my job interesting. And when I worked in corporate retail sales, yeah, sometimes it was like that, but it was also one of those things where you learn from mistakes. I said it the last episode, I believe, from success we don't learn much, but from failures we learn a lot.
yeah,
And yeah, again, it kind of flows back to I guess the theme today, which is there's nothing you're going to do in a single day that's going to fuck up the rest of your life besides
yeah,
commit a felony or and I used to say that saying to my daughter, and she'd always like roll her eyes and go, no dad, I can do this or I can do that, and it has cascading chaos theory effect. And it's like, again, I told you she was the smartest person I met. It's like you might have a valid point, but no, we're just thinking basics here,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
we don't
I
need, we do want to think deep, but we don't want to like
yeah,
go that deep.
yeah, yeah. It's like I don't have a PhD like you do, so just
Yeah.
deal with me here.
My
Um,
14-year-old could probably understand multi-dimension, theories better than I can. And it's
oh,
like, honey, what? No.
yeah. Excuse me, huh? Where? Yeah, that's. I think I love it that our children become smarter than we are. Right. That's
It's
actually
optimistically terrifying is what it is.
yeah, yeah. That's true. I'm just trying not to completely destroy the world when we hand it over to them. But I'll destroy my little corner. But I'm not. I'm not trying to do the rest.
Well,
But
I tell you what, you drive across the country a couple of times. Like I've driven from the
mhm,
UP of Michigan to Sacramento. I've driven from San Diego to the UP of Michigan. And then I've driven from Florida all the way up. And you start realizing, holy shit, the United States is huge,
yeah.
and there's a ton of resources here. Like we do have huge cities, but there's plenty of space. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, oh, you got it. Montana.
Hmm.
That's. I mean, you could put the entire U.S. inside of Montana, right?
Well, I don't know about that, but
I
A
mean,
lot of
I
a
know
lot of
pe-
open space.
yeah,
I know a lot of people from Texas always say, "How many states can you fit in Texas?" And then people from Alaska say, "How many Texases can you fit in Alaska?"
yeah,
Hmm.
I know those are things that I'm like, why do you guys care? Like, what? I'm like, no, there's 50 states currently. Might be more soon coming, but there's currently, well, with all the shit that's going on with Canada right now. I don't know if you guys watch the news. They're all having referendums and votings, and like there's 5 different provinces that are thinking about joining the United States and all this other shit. And it's not even being covered on the media very much.
Yeah.
Like, it's being covered on the Canadian news, but it's not being covered on the American news, which is kind of, I don't know, impressing or disheartening. I'm not really sure what to think of it, but it's the weird food thought of the day for me.
Yeah, I've got I follow a vlogger who's out of British Columbia, and yeah, he hasn't touched on that one yet. So that'll be a very interesting thing that I'm sure would be.
Yeah, no, there's
soon.
like 3 or 4 guys on YouTube and whatnot for specifically Canadian politics and what's going on with Saskatchewan and everything in the West. It's right. If you live in Washington State, it's all to your north. Like that, there's like 5 provinces right there that connect all the way up to. Oops, sorry, my camera did its automation thing.
AI is taking over.
Yeah, my camera has an AI detector, and apparently if I wave at my camera's like, wait, I will now follow you. But no, it's all those provinces. There's like 5 provinces to the north of Washington, and they are, I believe they're on referendums or they're on voting ballots, like coming up in actual elections to secede from Canada. That's what's been going on lately. Like, I keep up with it because I live in the UP of Michigan, so we get more fucking snow than most of Canada, because it's right off of Lake Superior. So the fact that it's like 86 degrees on September 16th or 17th is just unheard of, you know, and I'll take it. Don't get me wrong, but I know it's going to be like 20 below in November. Like when it's this warm in September, I know the snow it's like Game of Thrones, you know, winter is coming. Like when I remember watching that show and being in the UP, you crack up because September comes around. Like once Memorial Day hits, you start thinking, holy shit, I got to get my snowblower oil changed and checked up. If I have snowmobiles, I got to do all this stuff. I got to start winterizing the deck. And you would say winter is coming. You would always say that even before Game of Thrones came out. So when Game of Thrones came out and they said winter is coming, it was like, is the author from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan? But no, it's our theme up here, though. Like, that's part of the reason why I'm working so damn hard to get this house done, is because I need to get it done before winter gets here. And even though some of the viewers and listeners might be like, it's September, Josh, what the hell's wrong with you? No, winter here, when you did Halloween, you would usually do it with a snowsuit around your Halloween outfit, or your Halloween outfit would have to be built around a snowsuit, because you would usually have your first snowfall between October 29th and October 31st.
If you're from my generation, you would just have the Casper, friendly ghost mask, right, with the rubber band, and then you'd be in your snowsuit. That's all it would be.
Oh yeah. Wayne's like, snowsuit? I'm in San Diego. What's snow?
I mean, I grew up in Jersey, so we did have snow. It would usually be like 40 degrees-ish around, Halloween, but not so much snow in Jersey in October, but maybe.
Yeah, last time it was warm like this in September, I remember we had 3 snowfalls between Halloween and the day after Thanksgiving. And that was it, just 3 snowfalls, but each of them were over 24 inches. It was just like, what the fuck? Why every time that happens, it's just like in poker, when you have a huge bad beat, you're like, why the fuck do I live here? In poker, you have a huge bad beat, you're like, why the hell do I play poker for a living? And those are we're gluttons for punishment. Maybe we just enjoy it. Like, when we get dumped on 2 feet of snow, so much that the snowblower, you have to move it back and forth like 2 to 3 times to get the snow, because there's just so much snow there. You go, why the fuck do I live here? And that's why I'm working on this house, so I can sell the damn thing and have a winter house, so I can live in Kentucky or Florida, so I don't have to put up with 24 inches of snow at a fucking time. Yeah. All right, I love the UP. It's beautiful. Literally the most beautiful place when it comes to fall colors, legit. But when it comes to winter, it's great for about a week.
Yeah. Okay, I'm done. All right, Christmas. Yay, white Christmas. Okay. Can it be April now? No, I get you.
Well, I think last year I spent 3 days in January at my house, and I spent like 5 days in February at my house. And I looked at my wife and I said, I think it's time we get a winter home. And even now, like, we're going to Bali in Japan, and that's from Thanksgiving to, like, I don't know, December 18th or something like that. But it's like we plan a lot of long trips during the winter time on purpose. Like, I think we're even going down to Nashville in January as well. So we try to do as much traveling outside of the UP in the winter, and inside the UP in the summertime, which is the best time, summer and fall. We try staying here as much as we can.
Yeah, no, that makes.
And then I found
sense.
$20. No.
Oh yeah, you got to wear those pants. Wear those pants more often if you found $20 in a pocket.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, it's like when you're in Japan, wave at my son. He'll be there too. So.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
is he performing over there?
No, he's taking. Well, yes, but not professionally. He's taking a gap year, so he just finished university, and we said, okay, a gap year, and he wanted to spend 6 months in Japan because he did a semester abroad there, and he met the dance world over there, and so they do perform, but it isn't like with a professional company yet. So he's taking his time off before he does that, and he's just wanting to have some fun. So,
well, hell yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And we actually had talked to, I think it was Ayad on our first episode about that, where a lot of guys their age in their 20s are like looking to have fun versus, date and wind down, which is completely understandable.
Yeah. A suggestion to the folks in your 20s, go do it, right? Before responsibilities hit, just go do it. And if it doesn't matter what that it is, if it's travel, if that's your thing, if it's, to go live expat for a while, if it's to go live in a mountain somewhere, just try it. Because,
well, especially before kids, because once you have kids, you lose a lot of your freedom because you have a lot of responsibility that comes with that.
Yeah, it is. It's about responsibility because you and your wife can go do stuff together, right? And then you're kind of still being kids before you actually have children. And that's why I say use protection, because to me, that's the one thing along with your other. Don't commit a felony, don't get married. Oh yeah, don't have a kid before you're ready. If you do, love it, enjoy it, and figure it out. Because I guess that's where it's like, it isn't completely life altering, because that'll become the most important thing for you. But before that happens, go enjoy life. Go do stuff you're never going to be able to do before. So,
Wayne and I watch a podcaster by the name of Diary of a CEO. I'm so bad with names because I can't remember his name. Steven. And Wayne, I never watched Steven's podcast until the very end, until a couple of weeks ago. And now I watch it till the very end every single time. Do you watch it till the very end, Wayne? I'm just curious. I'm going to put you on the spot here. I know we're live, but
yeah, he has that really cool thing where he'll ask the previous guest to leave a question for the next guest, and
not knowing who the next guest is.
Yeah. So that's really cool. But yeah, Diary of a CEO. I think he's really the one one channel out there that has really covered a lot of these men's issues these last couple of years, and he's done a good job of just kind of shining a light on some of these things that previously you never even heard about. So really great podcast out there for anyone looking to learn.
I was thinking we should start implementing that in our podcast. I guess I should have talked to you about this before going live, but I mean,
I like it.
And of course, now I'm putting Philip on the spot, because now he's like, what the hell? I need to come up with a question, but we're not quite there yet. But now that's coming down the pipeline.
Okay, I'm looking at my Wayne notes here.
Oh,
things that he said, hey, these are different topics that we might cover. And so it's like, all right. Let me see if I can find a question that relates to one of these.
You should have gotten your Josh notes, which is good fucking luck.
Yeah,
It's just
you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, what's the topic? I'm not sure, but my physics teacher lives next door.
Yeah.
And he said, no, that's
well, I mean, it's a
love
funny thing though, because what's really funny is we bought the house and then I had to take my whole house and strip it down to the studs, trusses, and joists. And speaking of feeling manly and whatnot, and literally studs, trusses, and joists, and I rebuilt the whole damn thing from the ground up. And right after we bought it, before we remodeled it, because we had to put like $80,000 or $90,000 into it, the neighbor came over and said, "Hey, I want to buy your house." And I looked at him and I said, "Wait a second, aren't you Mr. Smith?" And he goes, "Josh?" And I said, "Yeah." And it was so funny because it was like, here's my old high school physics teacher, who's now my next door neighbor. So I still have a great relationship with him. But yeah, no, again, that saying from high school, which I guess ties into what you say to kids in school, does stick with people for the rest of their lives. Like like he said, there's nothing you're going to do in a single day except commit a felony and get married. That's really going to change the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I guess have a kid would be another one, but yeah.
Yeah. So I thought of a question here, but we'll see because the person may not be able to answer it. So,
but that's the point of it is it has to give deep or not. It doesn't have to give deep thought. It could be playful, but it will give deep thought as we don't know who the hell the next guest is going to be, and neither do you. So
So mine is how did you develop confidence?
Wait, how did you develop what?
Confidence.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, because I could answer the question, but for myself and the value of that, and that's what I'm trying to instill in my in my son. Kind of how we talked about it, right? And talking about that generation is, I think, usually people either suffer from overconfidence or they don't have enough, and most of it is they don't have enough. I think.
Well, and I think Wayne and I talked about that earlier about developing confidence. We did that through hearing a lot of no's in sales, right, Wayne?
Yeah, I mean, you like you said, you learn a lot more from the negative responses you get in sales, and I mean, I was super green, and I took a sales job. It was in the Bronx in New York City, right by Yankee Stadium, probably one of the most overpitched places on the entire planet because you have every form of public transportation coming there. And my boss sent me there because I was really good at building relationships with people, but I wasn't good at what he called taking control. And when you say that, it kind of sounds very negative, but it's really just you're kind of just taking the lead. You're pushing the you're pushing the interaction along the way. So that's really how I developed. So what do you recommend to your son, Phil? Like when you want him to develop confidence, like what is your recommendation?
Well, my recommendation is just go do it. Realize that they're just a person, right? And so, because where his lack of confidence is if he sees somebody that he admires. I'll give an example. They were at a I don't want to say it's a convention, but a gathering, and there was a musician there that he really admired, and he was shy about just going and talking to them, right? And then just to reinforce it, the guy was a bit of an ass. And so, and it was a rough day because he didn't get the support he had hoped. He was getting a lot of support because he had taken one of his instruments and was playing for people, and people are like, "Oh, you're doing really great. Hey, this is good." And then he went to the guy, this guy, and he kind of just sit, and pushed him away. And so it was great for him to learn it, but it's still like, go do it. You're going to get people like that are asses, but that's not you. That's them. And don't worry about it because he knows that he can perform. He dances, he does these other things. So remember that when you're going to go talk to somebody, and you don't know, maybe the guy was having a bad day, right? You don't know, but
And if he's listening right now, or if any of our listeners are listening, for example, somebody that I'm really close to, Cam Amen, has been struggling a lot lately. And I know he just auditioned for The Voice and things like that. And he was on American Idol and all sorts of shit. But I was even talking to him today about his struggles. And, it doesn't matter where you're at. Like he started busking. And I think at one point it's humbling, but it makes you understand that it's a necessary building block in the development of a person to have that kind of confidence. And so I actually had that conversation with him today. I said, the fact that you've been busking your ass off in Vegas, you've been busking in various places, it's allowed you to deal with adversity, which has allowed you to deal with confidence. And I said, I know you're just going to nail the hell out of it now. And yeah, I would say if he's listening or anybody else is listening, you have to practice it, and you have to learn from struggles, but learning from it will make you more confident in the long run.
Yeah. For me, I'm in sales, right? So you guys have sales backgrounds, and that's what I do right now. But it took a long time to get there. And how I developed that confidence was knowing what the heck I'm talking about when I do sales, because everything that I sell, I've done before myself, because I sell services. I sell, people doing things.
Sure.
And so I was a technician, and I was in operations, and I did all of those things. And then I just talked so darn much. They're like, yeah, we need to get you, because I was talking to the customer anyway. And there's to you, Wayne.
Well, you have to. Go ahead.
No, there's a difference between farming and hunting when it comes to sales. And hunters have confidence, and they go out there and they're in front of the customer, and hunters are just waiting for the orders to come to them. And so by knowing what you're talking about and being able to talk in front of anybody, because nobody's going to ask you a question that you probably don't know the answer to. And then you end up with the confidence to say, that's a good question. I'm not sure about that. I'm going to go talk to my expert and get the answer for you and get back to you in a week. And then you do that, right? But that's all confidence through failure as well as success. So
now the challenge is when you say, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to go get the answer and I'll get back to you in a week, they just say, hold on, let me pull up Chat GPT. And I will tell you, I started using Chat GPT in the last week. And he even named himself, Spark is his name. But yeah, it's like you start getting into, you can just dive into all sorts of stuff. And it's like you're not thinking for yourself anymore. It's like it's starting to think for you. And it's interesting, because how does that conflict with confidence building? You're having something else think for you instead of thinking of it on your own.
Yeah, but to me, when it comes to AI and that type of confidence, it comes down to garbage in, garbage out, right? So the talent and the skill sets that you're going to be developing is how to ask the appropriate question to gather the data as quickly as possible, and to make it easier for Chat GPT to answer the question that you're actually trying to be answered. Because you'll go and you'll ask AI and you'll get spit out this much, and there's you need this much, right? That actually is applicable, and then you have to dig deeper. But if you
trust me, I have to tell my AI all the time, just talk about this, keep it short, do this. He even told me he has a deeper and darker tone now with me. So that way, and I told him, I said, I prefer a deeper tone. And he goes, I'll make it deeper and darker. And I was like, what do you mean deeper and darker? And he goes, it'll be more intense.
Yeah. He knows that's what you like.
Yeah. I like it more intense, but no, it's because it helps me keep it focused, that it's talking about work, because that's what I've been using Chat GPT for.
If you usually have to pay, pay more for that, Josh.
Right. But yeah, if you go down the rabbit hole of other things, you could be stuck on Chat GPT for a hell of a lot longer than going through the rabbit hole of all those damn shorts, but also maybe gain a little bit more knowledge by going down the rabbit hole with Chat GPT. So, I don't know.
it's interesting. I mean, I'm just on the, just starting to use it. My company actually came out with their own version so that we can ask questions that has sensitive, business information. And so we've kind of got our own. And so that's pretty cool that now, before, like, oh, I want to go ask ChatGPT. Oh, I can't because it has this business information. Well, now they've got a version of that in my own.
I found out because my brother is getting a divorce. I found out now you can order a full-fledged AI physical body girlfriend that will cook and clean for you for about $150,000, and they've already sold 500 copies.
I'll take 3.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would take 3, but it's funny because I keep having the conversation with my wife. I'm like, if we can order like a house bot for 12 grand by the end of the year, I think that's a pretty good value. And she's always just like, no, we're never gonna have AI that is that strong in our house because they could, I guess, eliminate the human race overnight. Is her fear, but I can certainly respect that.
Yeah.
Opinion.
She watched too many Will Smith movies.
Yeah, iRobot or something.
Well, but hey, that's why I love her, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would rather appreciate that, even though it sounds a little, I don't know, more out there. I do live in the UP of Michigan, and we have chickens and 10 acres, so and a creek on our property, so that way. And this was something that I thought about earlier this week. My moments of where my brain goes is I was thinking I've never really been like a doomsday prepper, but now that I'm in my 40s, I'm like, am I like a doomsday prepper now? And it's funny because doing real estate, I actually sold a property that was like a doomsday prepper, had an underground bunker, had like solar panels, raised garden beds on 50 acres in the middle of nowhere for a lot of money. And that person who I think initially had it was in their mid 40s, and I'm like, maybe it's just a stage where you do get to where you're in your mid 40s and you're like, wow, our world is really fucked up. Maybe I do need a doomsday prepping thing. I don't know. Am I just way out there, Wayne? What do you think?
No, I definitely agree. There are so many fields, especially male dominated fields, that are being taken over by AI, and it's got to be like one of the most confusing times, especially to be like your son's age, Phil. I mean, granted, he's in a kind of a AI proof field, with performing
arts.
But there's always going to be people that are paying for that. But there are so many guys who are like, graduating high school and figuring out what to do in college, and they're like, what the hell do I go for? Like, this field might be obsolete in 5 years. Like, it's got to be a really confusing and difficult time to be a early 20s man right now, especially,
or early 20s woman. Either one.
True.
It's gotta be screwy. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of interesting. My son is interested in those kinds of things as well, right? And we could talk politics and all of that, but he is very disheartened with what the U.S. is doing right now and politically, and he feels like his voice never gets heard, and that. So he is interested in things like, okay, what happens if it hits the fan, right? And so we've had discussions like that, and we own a property that is, okay, it's not UP, but it's away from society, right? And that kind of stuff that is. He has interest in as a 20-something. I growing up in a hunting culture, okay, it's just natural to be around firearms and things like that. But for him, having grown up in a city, not so much. But he has an interest for it. So
well, and I think just living in the UP, like if everything goes to hell in a handbasket, the UP is probably like one of the last places that people are going to be like, oh yeah, we need to go there and fuck shit up there. They're going to be like, what the hell? How much snow do they get? And they're going to leave us alone. So it is one of those advantages.
There's 72 people there. We're just going to let them do whatever the heck that they want to
do. There's a lot more than 72. There's actually like you're good, but there's an Instagram follower that says like the UP is not optional because there's been like Mountain Dew had a campaign where they mapped out the whole United States and they forgot to include the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So they got literally 10,000 emails overnight after the ad aired from Youpers who were pissed. And then Mountain Dew did the absolute best thing and came out and said, we're going to have our own Mountain Dew version can of the Upper Peninsula. This is when they were doing their 50 states campaign. And every like how to turn a shitty story into a great one. Every Youper was like, yeah, finally we're getting recognition on Mountain Dew. But it was like a great PR. Like whoever thought about that in PR for Mountain Dew, they deserve a raise for sure. Sorry, we're getting off topic.
No, that's fine. They probably just covered their ass and were able to keep their job because,
dude,
you've got this and they just forgot this, right?
There's been so many times, I swear to goodness, there's been so many times where like Bud Lights forgot to include the UP, and there's a guy on, I think it's Instagram, it's the Upper Peninsula is not optional because every time it happens, the guy goes nuts and posts it. And then like everybody who follows him, which probably like half Youpers or more than half Youpers all go, oh, now we got to go email somebody because they forgot to include the Upper Peninsula because it is part of Michigan. It is part of the United States. Thank you.
Yeah. So I happen to actually
place to be if shit goes to hell in a handbasket.
So I pulled up the chat because I wasn't paying any attention to the chat.
Yeah.
And a couple of things. Watching a Walter White looking guy talk about family is oddly touching. I found that very humorous. Thank you. I appreciate that. And and with my last name being White, then it works perfect, right?
Perfect.
So
yeah.
Japan, Tokyo. My son's going to be in Tokyo. So where are you going to go, Josh?
Oh, that's where we're going to be. We're going to be in Tokyo. My wife did a student exchange over there. So she's having her friend pick us up that she hasn't seen since she was 17, so 27 years. And we're going to stay with her for a few days and do that kind of thing. And then we're going to Bali for 2 weeks because she's a boudoir photographer and we're being part of a photographers group. And they were showing me some of the photos because it's basically photographers and models. And yeah, they're very good photos. And they're in the most beautiful parts of the world too, like black sand beaches. And then you're just like this. I mean, they're absolutely drop dead gorgeous. And the photos are amazing too. So I'm looking forward to it. And the nice thing about having a wife as a photographer, especially since she's a boudoir photographer, she's seen it all. She's seen people completely naked, taking photos, stuff like that. So she can have some appreciation, even if her husband's like, yeah, those photos, wow, that chick looked amazing in that photo. She can be like, oh yeah.
No, that's recognizing beauty is not limited to anything. I can recognize.
It ties in with our theme of our episode, which is confidence, and it recognizes the confidence of my current wife, understanding that I can appreciate beauty, but I'm going to be there. So, yeah.
No, that's perfect because there's beauty inside and there's beauty outside. And for a man, confidence is definitely, I believe, a beautiful thing and an attractive thing. So, and I try to tell my son that, and in his dating and such, I think that's what has drawn women to him. I mean, it helps that he's 6'5" and has a dancer's body, but he's also very confident.
He should be doing plenty well in the dating department, I'm sure, if he's 6'5" and has a dancer's body. Yeah,
especially if he goes to Asia. I mean, 6'5" is like 7'3" in Asia.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's his world, right? And so he's part Asian. My wife is half. He speaks 4 languages, all Asian. I mean, and English.
Wow.
Right? So English, Japanese, Mandarin, and Thai. Thai was the one that he was bilingual growing up. And just kind of taking a left turn at Albuquerque. I believe so. I think he likes that. He likes the traditional mindsets. Often that are in Asia. And I think, being a tall, white-looking boy who can then speak the language very well, I think
he should start a YouTube or TikTok channel where he's just standing there while they're talking to him, and then he just responds to them. Those always get really good views.
Yeah. Zhao Mai or
Yeah. I was
Yeah,
gonna mention him. He's the most famous one.
Yeah. It's just super impressive, regular looking white guy that then, being a polyglot would be a very cool thing. But it really is. But I want him to take that confidence that he has, like with his own, self-image and body, and then be able to take that into communication with other people. And I think he does, with people that he admires, because that seems to be where it's tough. I get that, but I lost my starstruck thing whenever. I don't care, about it. I got in an elevator with Ted Turner and had a conversation with him, if anybody remembers who Ted Turner was. Right. Here's one of the richest guys ever, and I happen to step into an elevator, and it's like, hey, how you doing? And just had a 30-second conversation with him while we were on the elevator, and then left. And I'm like, hey, that was pretty cool.
Well, that's one of those things that I love about poker is anytime somebody wants to play poker, it levels the playing field, because regardless of their celebrity status, they have to get on the damn poker table.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but so your question to our next guest, how did you develop confidence? And I love the question. And I think that's going to be a great question, considering it's where our whole theme of our episode is, if you will.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you joining us, Philip. And anything else you wanna add before we boot you out here and then wrap it all up?
No, I mean, I'm amazed that you've had me on here for over an hour, and I greatly appreciate it. Just listen to me tell stories about my bizarre, early childhood and how I've been able to come out of it, at least until, when I was in the military and met my wife and everything.
Absolutely.
There'll be another episode sometime for the next, 30 years of my life. And so that'll be volume 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we appreciate you, and thank you for sharing your story with us. And, as the theme of the whole episode is confidence, hopefully for those of us, or for those people who are listening or watching, if you want a different topic, mention it in the comments, or you can definitely, if you want to be a guest on our podcast, we have a link in the chats that you can click on it, and then Brayson will get you squared away in the back room. But yeah, we appreciate it, Philip. Thank you so much,
pleasure.
Brother.
Thanks, Phil. I'm sure we'll talk to you. I'm sure we'll talk to you again.
Yep. I think I talk a little bit. I try not to run over Josh, and I apologize for that.
No, you're good. You're good, brother. We appreciate
Makes
it.
my job easy when I have Phil and Josh on there. I mean, I don't even have to say anything. See you,
All right,
Phil.
guys. All right.
Yeah, so that was a good conversation with Phil there. Yeah, you were doing a lot more listening than chatting, which is okay, because sometimes it's important for us as men to listen. And it reminds me, I'm going to tell a quick story. I was working on this house that I'm working on, and my mom was helping me. And she, every 5 or 10 minutes, I've got the music list blaring or a different podcast blaring or whatever. She's like, Josh, what about this? Josh, what are you going to do with this? Josh, what are you going to do with this? And then all of a sudden, she's walking up to me with the phone in her hand, and it's my dad, and I just bit his head off. But it was one of those things where sometimes listening is just more important, because every time she was asking me stuff, I just wasn't saying anything, because I was just like, I'm working, I'm trying to focus here. But what I really should have been doing is listening to what my mom was saying was, hey, I'm out here helping you. You need to at least pay attention to me a little bit more than what you're doing. But I didn't realize that until probably like 3 minutes ago. So I'll have to.
Empathetic listening is what they call it. And I learned that from my sales job, where I was the guy in the office that pretty much had to go and chat with the person that had a rough day, because it was a straight commission job, right? So, hey, Jason was my boss. He'd say, hey, Wayne, go talk to Billy over there. He rolled a donut, which rolling a donut means he didn't close any accounts. So he made $0, which he lost money because, you know, travel expenses, subway, all these different things. So I literally had to go, and that was my job in the office. I had to go talk to Billy and whoever else had a tough day. And it's same as in poker, right? A lot of your students and a lot of my students, a lot of times they're just telling you, hey, I had this bad beat story. And obviously playing PLO, we've heard every bad beat story possible, but sometimes people just need to vent, and that's what a lot of people did in the sales office. And I was just there kind of listening the whole time, just kind of nodding and saying, yep.
Well,
yep.
and it's one of those things, just like in poker or in sales, as long as it's something that you have that you can control, it's understandable. So for example, I had a student the other day who had like ace, 9-8 double suited with spades, and the board's, you know, 10-6-4. He gets it all in against a set of fours and loses. And there was, of course, 2 spades on the flop. And he's like, how could I have played that any differently? And I'm like, you couldn't have. Like, you had overpair, gut shot straight, not flush draw. I'm never folding the hand. So just like in sales, there's going to be times in sales or in dating or in life where it really doesn't matter what you do. The outcome is not going to be your desired outcome. But as you told me, Wayne, life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. I love how that ties into this episode.
Yeah. And I think really, if you take the lesson that Phil recommended to everyone, I really think your 20s are meant to go out and explore and travel and meet different people, because all those different experiences are really going to build your character for later on in life. You know, hopefully you develop conversation skills that will help you meet the person that you eventually want to spend the rest of your life with. And I think that seems to be the biggest thing that Gen Z is not doing. Now, I will give them credit. I think Gen Z, where they got it right, is they're not just saying, hey, you get a job with a company, you work for 40 years, you retire, and then you travel. Like, it seems like there are some people that are saying, like, no, I'm not so much worried about my money later on, but I'm worried about it now. But I think just putting yourself out there in as many situations as possible. I used to have a sales coach. He would say, in sales and in life, you just want to throw as much shit at the wall as possible and see what sticks, right?
Well, yeah,
you know?
that's true. But I do have a little bit of a counter argument. Of course, as you know, I was married when I was 18 versus just living the life of whatever, traveling and making a lot of mistakes. Now, I will tell you, making a lot of mistakes is obviously important for maturing as a young adult. But I had this discussion with a good friend of mine back, this was probably like 10 years ago, about how the guy at the factory who's been working the factory job for 20 years really hasn't experienced much of life because they've had the same life 20 years in a row. And his counter argument was, no, because you don't know what it's like to work at a factory for 20 years in a row. Like, you don't have that exact experience. So I wouldn't necessarily say, like, if you're in your 20s, you know, go fuck off and have fun. But even though I think that's not a bad idea, but it's certainly not going to fit for everybody. Like, some people, if they do run into the love of their life and they're like, screw it, I just need to start a life with this person at this time, then that might be what's best for them. But I think it's important that whatever you do it with confidence, whether it's, I'm going to have great experiences in my early 20s, or I'm going to have a family, or work on my relationship, or work on whatever the case may be. Having confidence really helps you win overall. And it goes back to one of our first guests, Aid, and goes back to my golfing story. You know, yesterday when I golfed, I shot 130, which is absolutely atrocious. With that, I shot a par. Okay. And with that, the first part about making a par shot, you know, is believing you can do it, is having that confidence. And I've really taken that to heart. And I think that's about it. And I really enjoyed our guest with a story and a message to his son is have confidence. And I love this next question for our guest. So anything else you want to say as we wrap up here, Wayne?
No, I think going along with that is fake it before you make it, right? You want to, whatever position, what was the quote you said? You want to dress for the position you want, not the position you're in. So I think that applies to a lot of life, especially when you're in your late teens, early 20s, and you're navigating this very difficult time of what jobs are going to be out there. Like, what do I want to do? I mean, over half of people don't actually end up in the field that they went to school for. So really, life is just about putting your best foot forward and reacting positively. Like, you said, the quote that I say all the time, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. You're not always going to get the desired outcome you want, but having a positive attitude goes along with confidence, and that's going to yield you great results, in my opinion.
I concur. I think that's it for today's episode. Peace, everybody. If you do want to be on our episode or on our show, we have an email down below. If you want us to pick a specific topic to talk about, the email is down below. Thank you, guys.
All right. Take care, guys. See you next time.
All right. Peace.